like, how did you first sort of like get eyes on the Australian product? Because like a couple years ago, we had Will Ospreay come out. He had a match against Robbie Eagles, and that sort of catalyzed, I feel like, a lot of attention, eyes on the Australian product, especially. But for you, how did you first get introduced to like the Australian scene, and obviously like the New Zealand scene as well, where you have the Fale dojo base? But how did you sort of like start finding out about these scenes and finding out about some of the talent in them?
Yeah, I had no idea. Like I said, same as New Japan. I had no idea what New Japan was. But after coming back here in 2013, um, I get a message on Facebook or one of these things, and it was Gino Gambino, and he was over in New Zealand having a match, and I think I went along to that show, and I think he heard I was there, and he sent me a message saying, I'm here, whatever. If you need any help, hit me up. So I came to Melbourne that year to visit some family, and I remember he was from Melbourne, so I sent him a message. We sat down, had a coffee, and we talked about what's going on here and what's going on in New Zealand. And he said, "Oh man, there's promotions here and there." And in my head, I'm thinking, right, how do we stop this thing?
How do
Because
you
I,
capitalize?
yeah,
Catapult on capitalize, yeah.
I've become a big fan of New Japan that I've just joined, and I want to show the rest of the world what New Japan can do. But throughout trying to do that, I started falling in love with the local scene and wanting to grow the local scene, and that's why everything's happening as they are.
Yeah. And yeah, we got a question here from Khalid. He wants to know what's the plans for Oceania Cup.
The dates should be announced soon, but the Oceania Cup is a New Japan show.
There you go, Kyle. Hopefully that answers it for you. Yeah, I mean, I think, by New Japan coming out and these shows and Australian talents being able to be showcased on as well is great for the Australian industry, because I feel like we've had a lot of amazing talent out here for many years. And even now starting to see some of the New Zealand talent that we, are now being able to start seeing, from Fight TV and, independent wrestling TV and stuff like that as well. That is like, there's so much talent here that is like starting to see. And I feel like now on an international scale as well, it's now achievable. Whereas like 20 years ago, for like, what I mean, maybe a young 20-year-old, Fale being looking at breaking into the wrestling business might not have been achievable to get signed by a New Japan or a WWE. Where in 2021, I mean, there's young people from New Zealand, Tonga, that can see you and go, wow, this guy is able to reach success. It is
Yeah,
possible. They can look at a Grayson Waller in WWE and go, it's possible to get there. A young Irish guy can see Finn Balor and go, well, you know what? We now have talent there. Because I feel like the international side of mainstream wrestling has really opened up over the last 10, 15 years. And we're seeing not just American showcased, and also we're not just seeing stereotypical characters of people just because they're a certain race. Like, we're not seeing like Australians coming out there going, tie me kangaroo down sport, and Finn Balor's not coming out there doing an Irish jig dressed as a leprechaun. You know what I mean? Like, it's they're
yeah,
they're taken seriously now, whereas I feel like maybe before it was a
yeah.
different story.
It's true. It's true. And I just want to add that that doesn't happen because I did it. It happens because everybody did go out there and get their names out there with the New Zealand Australia brand behind them. But at the same time, it doesn't happen. It didn't happen because we went out there and did it. It was also because of the guys who are here in New Zealand, Australia, working their asses off to try and help these guys get there. You know, to what's it? Um, just to mention Jack Bonza with PWA, and you got Gino Gambino, and you got Robbie Eagles. All these guys, right? They're striving to take this to another level, and I'm just really happy these guys are around to give me a hand to try and get this to where it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, like I believe like those gentlemen, I've had like conversations with Bonza and Robbie Eagles, over the years, And it's like for them, I believe it's to build a sustainable wrestling business here in Australia where where you don't necessarily have to go over to another country to earn a full-time living in the wrestling business.
That's true.
How is it that in New Zealand though? Like, do you feel like Australia and New Zealand can be viable, that we can see people living in Australia making a full-time living in the wrestling business without having to go overseas?
I think it is because at one point, Australia and New Zealand was the biggest territory in the world, and what stopped us from trying to get it to that same level? And the same thing with like everything else. It's not easy, but it can be done. And you also have to start somewhere. So we've started it, and we're going to get it to where it needs to be.
100%. Also, I wanted to ask you about the Rogue General character. How did you come up with that? How did you develop it? And what was the inspiration for it?
Uh, Firstly, I got sick of doing nothing as the underboss. Where the character of the underboss is you do nothing. You only beat the people up and you shut the fuck up and stand there and do nothing. So I got tired of doing that, and I was bored with it. And then I thought, because people on Twitter kept calling me the one bump. I mean the what do you call it? The one bump? No, the 1-star general. Because I didn't, and I didn't care. I thought, man, oh yeah, I like that name, general. And also I only do one bump here in most of my matches. I'll just go with the one bump general. So I made shirts of that, and people started talking shit about it. Then I thought, I think this is a good heel name. So I thought, yeah, let's go rogue because everybody wants me to do this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go this way, which means rogue, not conforming to the norms, and that's how I came up with the name.
Oh, that's awesome. No, that's great. No, I've really enjoyed seeing the character, especially seeing it develop. You know, before we do start wrapping up, I do want to ask, like, over your time, like, 14-year career in the wrestling business in New Japan, wrestling at a very, very high level, performing at a very high level. Has there been any interest from WWE or All Elite over the years? Have they expressed any interest, or is that something that you can't sort of mention on this podcast?
I don't want to mention names, but there were a couple of times, and I did turn it down because I'm not interested in going over there or what like I said, I'm happy trying to develop and grow this territory, which in the long run would help me more than going over there and having a short run or being used up and spat out like most of the guys who go there.
Yeah. Yeah, or becoming the next Funkadactyl, or you're doing the Tyrus gimmick, you know what I mean? So
I don't know.
yeah, exactly. But look, Kyle has got one last question. He wants to know, he goes, what started the Rogue Army?
Same thing. The rogue general doesn't listen to the norms, wants to do his own thing. And I thought it's just fitting because I want to take over New Japan. And the only way I can do that is to start my own army. And hey, I've got 2 countries to choose from. So that's why I wanted to do it. The Rogue Army is growing. I'm still recruiting. And I'm going to take it to the next level, if not even higher than where Bullet Club was.
There you go.